session on agriculture. My name is Tola Adeyemi, and I'll be your moderator for this session. I know that for many of you in the audience, this is the session that you've all been waiting for, and for good reason, because agriculture speaks to the very fundamentals of human existence. It's about food. It's about how do we feed ourselves as human beings. Now, they say a hungry man is an angry man. And we've all seen what the effects of hunger have had and how it could manifest within the wider population. Indeed, we cannot, as a nation, talk about economic development without addressing the issue of food and how do we feed and nourish our population. When you think about it on a macro level, agriculture is the biggest contributor to our gross domestic product. It's also the biggest employer of labor, but it's a sector that has attracted and continues to attract a lot of attention. We have seen some progress within this sector over the last couple of years, but it's a sector that's still beset with a number of challenges. So we have issues around our yields, where we see that our yields in Nigeria are still, comparatively speaking, some of the lowest in the African continent and indeed the world. Why is this an issue? It's an issue because of our population and the rate of growth of our population. The rate of growth of our population is outstripping the rate of growth of our agricultural output. We also have issues around storage. We have issues around transportation. We have issues around finance. We have issues around access to agricultural inputs. So it's a sector with a lot of issues. But as we have learnt, where there are lots of problems, there are also lots of opportunities. So it's a sector with tremendous opportunities. And we're fortunate today to have a talented panel that will dimension these opportunities in greater detail. The topic we'll be discussing is opportunities for investors and aspiring entrepreneurs within the agriculture value chain. To my mind, if ever there was a sector in need of transformation, it's the agricultural sector. If ever there was a sector in which we could benefit from innovation and collaboration, it's the agricultural sector. So here we have a tremendously important part of our economy that's vital for our survival as a nation, that has problems, but also has huge opportunities. We'll be dimensioning these opportunities today. So the way in which this session will run is as follows. We have 4 very talented speakers who will speak for 10 minutes each. After they finish speaking, we will open it up for questions, your questions. I anticipate that we will have approximately 40 minutes or so to really deal with the questions that you have. So this is a great opportunity for you to have the questions that are on your mind regarding agriculture answered by really talented speakers. So please use the chat box as much as possible, and we'll try and take as many of the questions as we can. So let's dive into it straight away. Our first speaker has a very interesting name. His name is African Farmer Mogaji. So let's play his profile, please. And welcome, African Farmer.
you.
African Farmer Mogaji legally changed his first name to African Farmer in June 2005. He's the CEO of FarmCredit.ng, an organization designed to provide intelligent and timely financing as input to youths and farmers with a minimum of O-level education operating in the production and processing value chain. His 23 years of robust field experience in livestock and crop production has made him a trusted authority, which he leverages as an agri-business analyst on numerous media platforms such as Channels TV, TVC News, Arise TV, Lagos TV, and Business Day. African Farmer is a graduate of Agribusiness Management from Lagos Business School. He is an Ashoka Fellow, IVLP Fellow, and Cochrane Fellow, and the author of Farming by Revelation and Green Gold. African Farmer is convinced he will be the second Nigerian to win the prestigious World Food Prize after Dr. Akinwumi Adesina.
Hello, good afternoon. I thank God for this opportunity, and I thank the Kingdom Summit and the Redeemed Christian Church of God for this opportunity. I don't take it for granted when you come to speak to believers. Today, I'm asked to talk about opportunities for investors and aspiring entrepreneurs. And my presentation my comments would be restricted around believers, because I believe most of the people here are believers. And so I would be a bit more spiritual. So first and foremost, I would say that the scripture says, except the Lord builds a house, they labor in vain that tries to build it. So there is, across the value chain in agribusiness, there is nothing you can think of that you cannot leverage the opportunity. When I say nothing, I mean nothing. I mean from Gary, we still bring in Gary from Ghana, and we bring in virtually everything and anything and along the value chain. So there's nothing you can think of. And however vague that is, it's as simple as that, because the fact is that the opportunities are there. So you can, if I log on to, yes, please let me know if you can see this. Can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So where to invest? This picture just speaks to the value chain from beekeeping to poultry. And when I say beekeeping, we most of us look at honey production. And honey is the least in terms of economic generating value chain in the bee. The venom is more expensive. That's the sting we run from. Pollination is huge in developing countries and developed countries. You can set up a business around just providing pollinating services. So when you have companies like Coca-Cola that use citrus, they sign agreements with farmers, and the farmers need the bees to pollinate the flower, because the flower, in about 3 days, if the bees doesn't pollinate, they lose their fruit. For every flower, you bring out fruit. For every fruit is profit to the farmer. So look at that value chain of this picture. You would get a lot. Like I said earlier, there's nothing you can think of that we don't need to develop. And I would come to, people say, how do you invest? How do I raise capital? For me, my experience is, because I hear this a lot, my experience is I would ask you to ask God. And I'm not being spiritual. All the capital I have raised on the platform of saying, Lord, I have this project. Where is the money? And what God told me years back is that around a guy that wanted Ishmael to die and looking for water with a jug, but there was a well. And I found that I've been able to raise funds like that. I needed 30 million, maybe about 12, 13 years back. And I just said, Lord, you've told me that everything around me, everything I need is around me, that how can I get it? Open my eyes. And I called a friend. She said she was ill. I went to her and she said, what are you doing now? I told her what I was doing. She called 5 friends. And in the space of 10 minutes, I had my 30 million. And when I say all, I mean all the projects I've done. That's how I get it. I know many people, most of the panelists will be speaking a lot to the dynamics, but like I said, I'm speaking to the spiritual. Abraham was a farmer. Where should you invest? Abraham was a farmer. He specialized in livestock. Isaac specialized in irrigation, not just farming, irrigation. 2021 is going to be a bit challenging with food security, with food supply. However, it opens up the best opportunities for us to leverage in terms of production. Production is where everybody runs to, but that's not where you get the most in terms of economic returns. But that is responsible for the survival of the remaining value chain. So the processors, the marketers, the distributors, they need this. So irrigation, selling irrigation equipment, however small, not anything big, is very crucial. Food is going to be expensive next year. Not just expensive, it's not going to be available. So the issue of an Isaac sowed in that land and reaped 100-fold is coming back in 2021. Irrigation is just what you need to do. And it was primarily a crop farmer, moved from crop into water, into livestock, into the value chain. And value chain is very crucial. Jacob, if you look at the pictures in my slide, the animals that will be to your left, the black pig, you having the piglets plain color, that is what happened there. That was the first genetic modification. So when you hear GMO, I say there's a scriptural reference where you have plain animals given to speckles and reversing the case. It's all in the Bible. Joseph was in the value chain of storage and distribution. Noah, Genesis 8:20 says that Noah began to become the farmer, and he planted a vineyard. He went, and the Bible says he harvested, he produced wine, and he got drunk. So he was into wine production. And before I get here, for you to know what to invest in, I would say ask God. Now, this picture you see here with me in the corn, some 3 days I've been praying, Lord, there's pandemic across the world. They are going to shut down. What should I do? I always ask God, what should I do? In Yoruba, I ask every year, Oluwa, kilomata doing, Lord, what will sell this year? Sometimes it may take a week, sometimes it may take 2 weeks. I will hear what to plan. This picture, I heard God said, mop up all the sweet corn seeds in the country. I've been producing sweet corn for about 9-10 years, and I mopped up all the corn seeds. And so 2 weeks into the lockdown, the importer now began to ask me to sell seeds, and I didn't sell seeds. And that singular instruction made us the leading supplier of sweet corn post-COVID lockdown. And when I was writing this book, revising the book, it said, go to the farm, take a picture, put your picture in front of the book. Revelation, you need to farm by revelation. You need to farm by insight. And the book says what they don't teach you in agribusiness school. So many years I've prepared land to grow maybe corn. The particular year I prepared to grow corn. And as I was praying on the land, I always pray on the land before I plant. I do livestock also. And God said in Yoruba, Ori le watermelon lo duro le. And what that means is that you are standing on the land for watermelon, and I prepared it for corn. And at the end of that year, the watermelon, when we planted, watermelon was what was responsible for a chunk of our income. So as a believer, how do you get in? I tell you this, in John 21:11, God told Peter, cast your net, and he got 150 fish. At some point in the for another one, first fish. So which out of the value chain will be profitable for you? Except the Lord builds a house, they labor in vain that build it. So you need to ask the Lord. That is what has been responsible for what I did. One of the panelists here in DD, I met her in Ghana 2011. I'm sure she may not remember this. You know, she came as a consultant for Feed the Future program. And I just had a conversation with her briefly, like passing question. And I said, how have you sustained the sector? Because I was about giving up. And she said, God told me to stay with Ace Foods, to stay with it. And that was just a lifeline. So I'm saying thank you to Ndidi for that comment. I'm sure she may not remember. And I'll say a big thank you. If you want to get in the agribusiness and you're 9 to 5, please retire before you resign, meaning start before you let go. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much, African Farmer. That was quite a great presentation. You know, I took some key messages from there. You know, you said there are lots of opportunities within this space. What should I invest in? Ask God. Really, really powerful. Ask God. God, what will sell this year? And then you said farm by revelation.
Revelation.
Yes, pray on the land. So thank you so much for those powerful messages. We'll be exploring them further during the question and answer session. So thank you. Our next speaker. Yes, thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Abramson. Adam Abramson, can we have the intro for Adam Abramson, please? And welcome, Adam.
Dr. Adam Abramson. Dr. Adam Abramson is founder and CEO of Farmstar, a digital platform for linking farmers to local buyers without requiring internet access. He also consults for Precision Agriculture for Development, a fast-growing non-profit organization promoting digital agriculture and active in 8 countries. He has spent the past 12 years researching and developing solutions for smallholder farmers around the world. He lives in Israel.
Great, thank you. Let me share my screen. Do this here. See if we can get to the wonderful. I think this is visible. Let me know if it's not. But yeah, thank you very much for the invitation to speak. And I think the introduction was a good summary of my experience in relation to African farmers and the agricultural sector in general. So I have lived in rural areas in Africa. I've worked face-to-face with smallholder farmers. And so this is really my focus and passion. So I appreciate the time to talk to you all. So I've titled my presentation, What You Should Build for Farmers Today. And I really want this to be an encouragement to especially entrepreneurs who are considering entering into the agricultural value chain. So I'll go over, I think, some of the big opportunities that I see just from my own experience, mostly in Kenya, but across Africa. So if you look at specifically small farms, smallholder agriculture dominates agriculture in Africa and also Asia, many parts of Asia, many parts of South America, Central America. And overall, worldwide, there's about 500 million smallholder farmers, farming about 1 billion hectares. So 2 hectares or less, as I'm sure many of you know. And just back of the envelope estimates, it's about a $2 trillion market just within smallholder farming. On the output side, and about 100 billion of inputs purchased. So it's a big market. And I think this is an interesting market for any entrepreneur or investor. I think as others have said, it's going to be a more and more important, I think, space in the future as well. So I just wanted to go over what I see as kind of four main subsectors or opportunities within agriculture. So you have farm inputs, obviously, that farmers are buying, and you have farm advice, which is a big need for smallholder farmers, many of whom are disconnected to the internet, don't have Google to just ask, hey, what should I be planting, or how should I be taking care of my crop? Finance and payments are a big opportunity as well. I think that's also something that is a real beginning to emerge now. And then market linkages. So I'll get into each one of these and kind of go through what I see as the opportunities. So specifically smallholder farmers and their journey to buying farm inputs, it's usually a small agro retailer. In Kenya, we call them agro vets, that have a limited amount of inputs on the shelf. And there aren't really other, scaled channels that farmers can typically source from. We don't yet have a mature online marketplace environment for inputs. And so there's a limited selection. A lot of times they have, the basics, but they wouldn't be able to, for example, buy a drip irrigation kit from their local agro dealer necessarily. A lot of that technology exists, but it's hard for a smallholder farmer to find and to learn about. I think because of that long shelf life and small volumes, it ends up being more expensive just because of that lack of economy of scale. And then there's also the issue of adulteration or counterfeiting products. So that happens as well. So there's issues of trust within that relationship. So I've kind of focused a lot on Twitter and Facebook in terms of examples of just the need in the market right now for some of these services. So if you look, this is from my just desk research on looking for examples in Kenya, but you see a lot of farmers looking for inputs or input companies selling inputs using Twitter and Facebook. Clearly, when you have most farmers still offline, this isn't the best type of a platform. And so just as an example, I think, platforms could exist that are able to reach farmers. Could be a call center, could be SMS, but those are just some examples. I think in terms of specific opportunities within this value chain, so digital marketplaces for inputs could make access to farm inputs more efficient, could greatly expand farmers' ability to source inputs beyond what they can find on the shelf in their local agro dealer. New distribution models would be interesting rather than just the traditional kind of sitting on the shelf. Obviously, digital technology allows new distribution models. You could think of a Groupon for farm inputs where you could aggregate demand. So just some ideas that I think could be explored. And then you have these cross-cutting kind of opportunities where every agro dealer or retailer basically serves as an agent, or in a sense, an extension agent. They often provide advice to farmers. Farmers tend to trust them. What product do I need? They would typically ask their local agro retailer. So there's ways of leveraging that relationship where you could add in those finance and payment services, advice, or bundle services together. So that's just one opportunity that I see in the farm input space. For advice, like I said, I think advice for farmers can be really critical, right? It's an important kind of missing piece a lot of times. If you look at the numbers, so that's a big need. I think, again, you'll see on Twitter and Facebook, you'll see advice, you'll see farmers also be a really interesting thing to do. We know some models out there where seed companies are selling their seeds and coupling that everything is mostly, most most